Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm here with Karen, and we're here to answer your grief questions. So, if you like our videos, make sure you subscribe so you can stay up to date on all of our latest videos that come out every Wednesday and Saturday. So, it is getting close to Halloween time. So, today's question is for Karen, and it is: how can I manage the emotional triggers that Halloween costumes and decorations might bring up for me?
Yeah. We always talk about the holidays and the different seasons and things like that. And people do find certain times of year to just be particularly difficult. And I think, we're often thinking about like Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, Hanukkah, all of that. But I think there is something about Halloween that has its own set of issues that come along with it. And you and I had talked about like if you have children and managing what's supposed to be a fun holiday and a children's holiday, and there's a lot of memories and everything like that. But I think the other part of it is that especially with the way things are now, first of all, a lot of people decorate for Halloween that didn't compared to when I was growing up. Like maybe
Mhm.
people would have some orange lights or something. But now people will have like entire yard scenes, and some of them are very specific and very graphic, and there's a lot of blood and skeletons and everything else, and it's meant to be done, I think, in fun and very innocent, but for someone who's had a loss, I think it can be very, very upsetting because essentially it's a lot about death, and it's not, again, I don't think intended to be that, but I know people find it to be very, very upsetting. So it's like, what do you do if this is in your community, it's on your street? You can't exactly just put blinders on, to all of this.
Yeah.
So it's hard to know like how to really figure out like I don't think their avoidance is really a total option, but I do think recognizing, if nothing else, that like, yeah, this would be a very normal response when you are grieving, to be really triggered and upset by certain things. So, I mean, again, if it's on your street, it may be challenging to avoid, but there are places maybe that you don't go into. Just as like during certain times of year, people avoid going into Target or something because of holiday music or things that may be on display. You may find yourself this time of year kind of having to do something similar, doing a little bit more online shopping, doing some things that don't have you surrounded, certainly a Halloween store. I mean, all those places could be really terrible. And if you can avoid some of that, it's at least a start.
Yeah, definitely. And if you don't want to have open up your door and give out candy on Halloween, you don't have to. Just don't
Yeah.
turn your light on or
Yeah.
leave the candy out on the stoop. And if you want to do that, but if you think that's going to be a trigger, you have to think about what's best for you. And like you said, Karen, some things you're not going to be able to avoid. It seems everybody loves these 12-foot skeletons now around
Yeah.
here, at least.
Yeah.
And they keep them up all year round now because I think they must be so hard to get up and down. But um, they decorate them for the different holidays. But so some of that may be hard. I mean, the decorations, I agree, it can be definitely triggering because a lot of people will set up even like these fake grave sites in their front yard.
Hmm.
And, for a lot of people, even going to the cemetery is a huge trigger. Even driving past a cemetery can be a trigger. So I think it's kind of coming back to like, what are your tools to help you to deal and manage with these triggers? Because the reality is, you may be able to avoid some of it, but some of it you may not be able to.
Yeah.
And so, what are your tools and techniques that you can use to kind of help when you are triggered?
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's not only like you see the skeletons, but one that seems to be very popular this year is a dog skeleton. And a
Mhm.
lot of people, have lost pets and can find that to be, I think it's, again, maybe meant to be sort of cute, but it can be very upsetting. And, so I think you're right. It comes back to the idea of like, well, how do we handle any of our triggers? And sometimes there can be things that we don't put ourselves in certain situations, as you said, maybe like Halloween night, just kind of turning your light off and making yourself distant from that. So I think there are things like that. But the rest of the time, it's not very different than other triggers that you would encounter, in the sense that what are some things that you can do that you can find to be calming, that you can find yourself to be sort of distracted or redirected. Even TV can be tough because there's so many Halloween movies
Mhm.
and things like that. So just even putting on the TV and just letting it play, like, on your cable channel could be hard. So, like, being a little bit more intentional with what you put on or avoiding the TV, So sometimes it's just kind of, and I think people worry about avoidance, but what I say to them, I'm like, just don't try to pile on anymore. This isn't as much about being in denial as it is about just protecting yourself too. So if there are things that you can do, to protect yourself during that time, or when you are encountering something that's upsetting, to kind of help yourself regroup as you would with any other trigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to summarize, how can somebody manage the emotional triggers that Halloween costumes or decorations might bring up?
Well, again, I think the first is just we need to validate it. I think people feel silly sometimes when they get upset by something. So we want to validate, yeah, this is upsetting. It may not have bothered you before, but you find it bothering you now. That's normal. That's to be expected. Trying to avoid certain situations that may make you encounter it more is helpful. And then also, I think to be using your tools, any type of relaxation, meditation, any coping that helps you when you are feeling triggered in other situations. All of those I think are important to remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you,
And
Kelly.
stay tuned for more episodes from us. Subscribe and follow us on TikTok and YouTube. Take care.